Good afternoon, world. Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. John Fernino, your Books and Bourbon host for today. I believe this is episode 5, possibly, of the critically acclaimed Books and Bourbon series. I don't know who has critically acclaimed it besides myself, but hey, I'm the one making it, so I'm critically acclaiming myself right now. Anyway, welcome. Thank you for joining me. Kind of a good time to do a Books and Bourbon break, I feel. Didn't want to leave everyone hanging. It's been a while since the last episode. Again, thank you to Trevor for joining me for last 6 months episode, about 5 months ago-ish, right around Halloween. Been really busy today. Just painted the living room back there. Freshly painted. I smell the delicious aroma of fresh eggshell coat. It's wonderful, and I'm going to be doing some landscaping right after this, so why not have a nip of bourbon with all my friends before I get my dirty clothes on and dig up sod for the rest of the day. So just a good intermission to spend with all of you. So anyway, thank you for joining me. You'll pardon me, I'm going to look this way for my cheat sheet here. I did want to bring up, we're going to be breaking some Books and Bourbon rules today. So please bear with me, it's okay. One step at a time here, one step at a time. There's rules I have not broken. The pipe, still contemplating. Still intelligent, contemplative conversations will be had today. Pardon me, I'm going to break into a British Sean Connery accent with the pipe. I don't know why. Anyway, I got the pipe. The robe is missing. A little warm out today. Wasn't feeling the robe so much. I don't know, just a little warm today. So I kind of put that one aside. We're in a different room today. I like changing it up. So this is the dining area. I don't make quite enough money to have a dining room yet. So this is more of a dining nook. Pretty good size for a nook. It might be a nook with a capital N. So that's good. I hope you enjoy the view today. I wanted to bring it a little more intimate. I was watching the basement tape. Not tape, right? Those don't really even exist anymore. I was watching the footage from the basement in the last episode. I just thought that was perfect for two, kind of like a soundstage talk show type vibe. I want to get more intimate with you today. Okay, I want to be right with you. Feel like, we're having a fireside chat. Just you and I today, okay? So kind of made it a little more intimate. Of course, I'm wearing the Mocs, though. That is an unbreakable rule of Books and Bourbon. I don't know what that was. The cats are probably going to make an appearance at some point. There is one major difference. Pardon the paint on the hand. I see that. That's not dirt or anything. That's paint. I haven't had a chance to wash off my hand yet. Sorry about that. Get a toothbrush out later. But anyway, there is a big rule that I'm bending, very bending, like almost breaking, like really, really bending into a big U shape. That rule is the books part. So I haven't had much time to be reading very much. We have our monthly Barnes & Noble book club, and that's pretty much taken up my time. I'll tell you right now, I haven't even started that book yet. Sorry, I think the meeting is in like a week, so I gotta get on my horse there. Sorry, fellow and former booksellers. I'll catch up, I promise. But really, that's all I've had time to read. I've just been really, really busy here and at the house and work and all that fun stuff. But I promise I will relate some of what we talk about today to books. But I thought, I haven't had time to read very much, but I want to keep conversations going with you guys. The views, I think I'm up to like almost 300 views on Volume 2, I think it was. Something about Volume 2 was just magical. So I want to recreate that magic. But I can't because I'm not reading. So we're going to talk a TV show today. We're going to talk about the Game of Thrones finale. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. Everyone's talking about that. It's tomorrow night. I'm excited for it. I'm sure everyone else is excited for it. We're not going to talk about it. I can't even name a character right now because I'd be afraid someone would call me a spoiler for even saying that character's still alive. That's how important that is. Everyone's talking about it. No. Going to be a little more unique than that. There is a reboot currently underway, and I did a teaser on Facebook about it, so you probably know what it is. But there's a reboot, a very, very intriguing reboot. By the way, House on Haunted Hill. or Haunting of Hill House. I always do that. Haunting of Hill House. Check that out, by the way, on I think it's Netflix, right? Awesome series. Not a reboot. Also not an adaptation of Shirley Jackson's book, which is amazing, but a total reimagining, and they did it so well, and it's super cool. But anyway, I digress, as I typically do on Books and Bourbon. The TV show I'm talking about, the reboot, got some pretty big shoes to fill. We're talking the Twilight Zone today, amongst some other things. But we're talking the Twilight Zone reboot by Mr. Jordan Peele of Key and Peele fame, Aaron fame. But I love it. Unbeknownst to the masses, he's a horror guy. He's done 2 movies, both definitely horror movies. Undeniably. Both kind of social commentaries too. We'll talk about that. But they're definitely just straight up horror movies at the end of the day, with some dark comedy in there, but they're horror. So who knew? Jordan Peele, everybody. Awesome guy. When I saw Get Out, which I'll talk about in a minute, when I saw that, I immediately went on the internet to look at different interpretations and, just some background on how Jordan Peele came to write and direct and possibly produce, I think, maybe, this straight up balls to the wall horror movie. Pardon my French. Sorry, pipe. Gotta be contemplative, not cursy. But where'd he come from? And he just comes out of nowhere and rocks it out. And so I was watching his commentary where he was answering fan questions about the movie, and what a cool guy. You can tell he's super smart, totally witty, funny, and a total horror fan. So anyway, I wanted to talk about the Twilight Zone reboot. I was super excited for it, super hyped up when I found out it was happening. I subscribed to CBS now, I think it is, or CBS Plus, in order to stream it, which I'm sure they've made gazillions of dollars just from that show alone. But I haven't really had a chance to talk about the show with anyone, so I wanted to be the one to bring it up, because I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan. It's one of the most groundbreaking shows of the 20th century, in my opinion. Classic show. Just some of my favorite TV shows are Twilight Zone episodes. You've got one of the greatest hosts, Mr. Rod Serling, just iconic. The show is iconic. So to reboot something that big so much later is a big task. So so I wanted to talk about that with everyone. So that's a little preview of what we're going to talk about. I'm going to keep this Books and Bourbon kind of short, keep it moving along. So it's bourbon time. It's bourbon time, now that you know what we're going to talk about. So without any further ado, I would like to, again, thank Discount Drinks in Wyandotte, Michigan, for providing today's bourbon. For some reason, they always feed me free liquor when I go there, too. The last 2 times I've been there, they just offer you bourbon samplers. So, cool. I'm already half a shot in, I'm not going to lie. Not of this featured bourbon, though. I wouldn't do that to you. They gave me Maker's Mark. I'm like, yeah, okay. I'll have a shot of Maker's while I buy my real bourbon. So, anyway, today's featured bourbon, I kind of pulled out all the stoppers. Stopper, because it's out of stopper. Pulled out all the stoppers today. Today's featured bourbon, Heaven's Door Bourbon. Why did I pick it? Well, it kind of jumps in, or kind of ties into the theme of the Twilight Zone. That looks kind of Twilight Zone-y a little bit. Time, ticking, rotary stuff. But I did it because of the intro, one of the greatest intros of all time for TV of the Twilight Zone is the door in space. Remember how the door opens in space and you go through the door? Heaven's Door. Okay, it's a door. That's the best I could do. But this is not cheap. This is not a cheap bourbon. And in fact, after reading the label at the store, come to find out, there's a reason it's called Heaven's Door, as in knocking on Heaven's Door. And that's because this is Bob Dylan's bourbon. He has a bourbon, and it's Bob Dylan's bourbon, Heaven's Door, aptly named. To quote Bob Dylan, I could sing it like Bob Dylan. Here, I'm going to sing it like Bob Dylan. We wanted to create a collection of American whiskeys that, in their own way, tell a story. I'm not a Bob Dylan fan. I don't know why people are. Jimi Hendrix was. I don't get it, Jimmy. I never did. I'm a much bigger You fan than I am a Bob Dylan fan. So if Bob Dylan inspired you, Jimi Hendrix, to do what you do, sweet, but he's not, I don't know, not my cup of tea. So never has been. But anyway, let's see how his bourbon is. Already I'm questioning things though. Tennessee bourbon. That's odd. Bourbon's supposed to be from Kentucky, but I don't know. I mean, Jack's not a bourbon, and that's Tennessee whiskey. So I don't know. They make bourbon in Michigan too, good bourbon, but I think it's the type of water they use. Again, I like bourbon. I'm not going to follow all the bourbon rules. I just like to drink friggin' bourbon. So Heaven's Door bourbon. I have not. I just took the wrapper off. I have not had a single sip of it yet. So let's do that. Put me on pause. Run up to Discount Drinks in Wyandotte, Michigan. It might take you a little while, but it's worth it. Put me on pause. Grab yourself a bottle of Heaven's Door bourbon. Okay, here we go. Using my Adventure Express Kings Island shot glass, Dan. A little shout out to Dan. And here we go. Okay, kind of tough. There we go. Oh, I love that pop. Ooh, look at that cork. Oh, look at that cork. This is going to be fun. Ooh, oh, yeah. All right, here we go. I will do a generous shot before we talk about Twilight Zone. Okay. Can I leave this on camera? This word? Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? Okay, here we go, guys. Cheers. Hope everyone is having a good spring. Here's to a good summer and to some good media. Not good books today, but just good media, good art. Here's to good art. Cheers, everybody. Bottoms up. No idea what to expect. Here we go. Ooh. Okay. Not much. Ooh. Now it's going down the belly. Very strong in the mouth. Lots of mouth sinus. That cleared my sinuses up. And now it's going down to the belly. Kind of caramely. Kind of caramely. Not bad. Bob, you make better bourbon than write music. You know what? That's not true. You write great songs. It's just I don't like your voice, and they're kind of all long. But you do write great songs, so I can't blame you that. There's some groundbreaking songs. You're a poet, Bob. You're a poet. Maybe not a singer, but a poet, Bob. Anyway, good stuff. Cheers, everybody. Let's get into it. This is where I usually digress, and all of a sudden it's an hour later. Sorry, second chaser. There we go. All right. So the Twilight Zone. So Jordan Peele comes to pretty quick acclaim, critical acclaim, absolutely. Not just me calling him that, but like everybody is critically acclaiming Jordan Peele for the movie Get Out. I delayed watching Get Out just because of the frantic buzz that it generated. I think it won some Oscars, right? It did, I think. I forget which Oscars, but I think it did. But, I usually tend to stay away from really buzzy movies, unless it's like Star Wars, But, I don't know, the buzz was a little too frenetic for this one when it first came out. I was like, yeah, people are calling it a social commentary and very timely. That sounds like a fad to me, and will it be good in 10 years? I don't know about that. So I was hesitant, but as a horror fan, eventually I'll watch it, right? Of course, you have to. So I did. That was maybe, I don't know, a year ago. It's already been out for a couple of years, right? Maybe 6 months ago. No, I watched it here. So it was like about 6 months ago. Kind of ready I was going into it like, all right, let's see what we got. No, it was awesome. The whole movie, it was fantastic. It was funny. It was darkly funny. It was definitely a straight up horror movie. It did the paranoia vibe really well. It did medical horror. It even had a whole medical horror thing. I won't spoil anything really, I hope. But the whole medical horror aspect of it was great. The acting was great. It had a little just wink, wink, nudge, nudge humor going on through the whole thing. And when people talk about the racial commentary of the movie, yeah, there was racial commentary. But what I liked is that's just the way Jordan Peele decided to approach it. He had a point to make. He just decided to tell that point using race. I like to call the theme of Get Out Stranger in a Strange Land. We've all been there. We can all identify with that. Being the stranger amongst a group that all kind of ties in, whether it's culturally, racially, Gender-wise, right? Being the only guy around 50 women, you feel that, or being the only girl among 50 men, you feel that. We've all been there, and he did that so good. You felt for this guy so much. When he was uncomfortable, you were very uncomfortable too. And then to find out that your reason for discomfort is all legitimate, and the person that's closest to you, oh, spoiler, the person that's closest to you that you entrusted to be sane is actually the cause of all of it, and it was just awesome. So anyway, Get Out was great. I haven't seen Us yet. I'm curious to see how he uses the whole doppelganger trope in this movie, because it looks pretty darn scary. Yeah, so I got to go see Us, or actually stream it probably by now. I don't think it's in the theaters anymore. I missed it. Hi, Bob. Okay, Bob. Okay, hi, Bobby. Come on. No, you got to at least let me. Yeah, there you go. All right, General Purr, everybody. Yeah. All right, don't step on the computer, Bob. Anyway, so Us I haven't seen yet, but anyway, those two movies, the success of those two movies gets him the Twilight Zone. I don't really care for the Twilight Zone. And I feel awful saying that. I'm giving it like 2.5 bourbon bottles out of 5. Yeah, have you guys seen it yet? Give it a view. Let me know what you think. I was so hyped up for it. I'm like, what kind of awesome twist is he going to bring into this show? Because he is a great set. Because Rod Serling, the original Twilight Zone, had total social commentary points to make. Big ones. Almost moral fables. That's what I love about the Twilight Zone. They're moral fables. And you can say what they are in like one sentence, right? So like, I love the one with Burgess Meredith where, he's this introvert who loves books, and, his marriage is falling apart because he's just into books all the time. And then a nuclear holocaust happens. He's the only one alive, and he's so excited that he gets to read all day until he breaks his glasses, and he's the last man on Earth, and he can't even read books. Irony, and it's great, and, I just summed up the whole episode in, 30 seconds there. There's so many other episodes, classic Twilight Zone episodes, that you can just sum up like, hey, you remember the one where, right? Think about it. Think about what your favorite Twilight Zone episode is. Bourbon, think about what your favorite Twilight Zone episode is. And you can describe it in 4 sentences, right? You remember the one where, to serve mankind. Bob, to serve mankind. Remember that one? That was the one where the aliens visit the Earth. Spoiler alert, the aliens visit the Earth, and they have this book that they think it's called To Serve Mankind. They think, oh, the aliens want to serve us. Oh, no, it's a cookbook, people. It's a cookbook. One of the greatest twists ever. The pig face one, right? What a great episode. There's so many. Timeless, and they're timeless too. But anyway, I've seen 3 of the new Twilight Zones, and I quit. I quit it. It's not that they sucked. It doesn't suck. But they're just not great. They're not great. I think they're an hour long, which the Twilight Zone originally started as a half-hour series. Just a half-hour gut punch. In a half hour, you don't have much time to tell a full story. It's constant action. Then the Twilight Zone switched to an hour. In the mid-60s, maybe? With Rod Serling still, it switched to an hour. And that's when it started kind of, an hour was too much for that show. It was the best as a half-hour freaking roller coaster ride. Quick hit, here's your setup, here's your characters, bam, there's your twist. It worked the best as a half-hour show. I'm pretty sure the new one's an hour long. And it's a lot of space to fill for an anthology series where you're telling a completely different story every week or whatever. They're unrelated to each other. So it might be too long, but I'll tell you what. The twists so far have been completely underwhelming. They're heavy. They're heavy shows. They have something to say. Almost too much. Almost too heavy. When I watch a Twilight Zone episode, I want to be able to dissect that episode within a half hour after watching it with someone and be like, yeah, that was awesome. What about that part? Yeah, I think he meant this. Done. 2 of the 3 episodes I watched, I felt the need to write a dissertation about. I think the first episode is about a stand-up comedian who, it turns out, slowly killing the people he rips on out of existence. Like he's erasing them as he rips on them. Sorry, my screensaver just turned on. There we go. As he rips on them, they disappear from his life. I'd have to watch that episode 2 more times to really grasp everything that was going on in that episode. Cool. I like that it's deep. I don't want to write a dissertation about a Twilight Zone episode. It was just, and it didn't really deliver. There wasn't like this moment. Twilight Zone was so good at moments. Where you're like, oh, I didn't see that coming, or I thought this might be. Oh, it's true. I just didn't get that emotionally invested, especially in that first episode. That was the pilot, and it's like, guys, don't hit us with this moralistic tale of the art of comedy and what comedy means. And it was too heady. It was too heady. Now, the second episode, I believe it was the second episode, that should have been their pilot. That was Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, or they might have changed the name. It's a reboot episode from the original Twilight Zone series, except it's not. I'll get into that in a minute. But Twilight Zone, the original Twilight Zone, one of the most iconic Twilight Zone episodes is William Shatner, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, where he's terrified to fly. He's already a nervous flyer, and he gets on a plane, and there's this evil gremlin monster on the wing of the plane on the outside who's slowly tearing the plane apart in midair. Only he can see it. And it's all about him flipping out and losing his mind on the plane, right? One of the greatest episodes ever. Here's my books and bourbon tie-in. That episode starring William Shatner, was actually written by one of my favorite authors. He did a lot of Twilight Zone episodes, screenplays, but he did a lot of books and short stories too. Richard Matheson. So this is a book of short stories of his, and the Twilight Zone episode was actually based off of. I have paint all over my hands. Sorry, I should have washed up. But anyway, that episode was based on this short story, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, and you can see the monster on the plane. Check out the Twilight Zone. If you don't know the original Twilight Zone episode, check it out. It's a great one. William Shatner. I mean, come on. Kirk, come on. So there's a book tie-in right there. But anyway, the new version, it's not a reboot. It's an homage, right? Homage. The bourbons hit me. Of that original episode, but a total different story. Still about a guy who feels very alienated on a plane. It's a good one. That was a good one. If the other one, if 1 out of 3 wasn't bad, I needed 3 out of 3 to be good. That was the only one I really liked, and then I quit. Because the third one was like, it was kind of lame. It was kind of lame about replaying time, mother and a son. But at its heart, it was just kind of lame, and it was long. It's kind of boring. But the second one, Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, that was getting a little more where we need to go with the new Twilight Zone. It was fast-paced. It was suspenseful. It had a point. It had a moral, social point to it. The twist wasn't that good, right? The original Twilight Zone had some of the best twists ever. The twist wasn't that good. You could see it coming. The one cool part was they brought a device in, a recording device that was really cool how they did that. So if you're going to watch Twilight Zone, the new Twilight Zone, watch the second episode, Nightmare at 20,000, perhaps 30,000. They may have switched the title or something just as a joke, something like that. Watch the second one, Nightmare at 20 or 30,000 feet. You'll like that one. Then watch the first one and the third one and see if it's still piquing your interest, because it lost me. It lost me. So anyway, that unfortunately, sadly, is my review of the new Twilight Zone. Jordan Peele, I love you. You're awesome. You can bring something to the genre, I believe, that people aren't bringing right now. Very smart, very witty, very deep. But careful with the Twilight Zone. Careful with the Twilight Zone. I'm kind of lost on it. So I can't wait to see Us, because it looks really good. So I don't know. Maybe he relinquished. Who knows how much control he has over what the episodes are? I don't know. I'll look it up at some point. Because maybe this isn't all him, because he's awesome. So I don't get it. So anyway, I'll be watching Us probably as soon as possible. I think it's in the black zone between theater and streaming and DVD, Blu-ray. So as soon as it leaves the abyss and comes back out, I'll check it out. But so anyway, that's about half the episode. What I wanted to do though was what I did when I got done watching those episodes. I was like, man, I want a good horror anthology or a good uncanny things anthology to watch. Because right now the whole thing with TV and what I love about the reboot of the Twilight Zone, TV right now is all about epic. Everything's epic. Bob, don't pause me. I don't think I paused. Everything's so sweeping and epic and 8 seasons, 10 seasons long, right? But what I love about the Twilight Zone is each episode is this little self-contained window, unrelated to future or past episodes, into another world for a minute. And man, people can have fun with that. The creators, they just take you everywhere. The original Twilight Zone, you had episodes in the 1800s, you had episodes in Brooklyn, you had episodes in, the middle of nowhere, Arizona, you had episodes in the future, you had episodes in the present. I love that idea, so the new Twilight Zone left this gap. I had this need to watch shows that fulfilled that same need, right? That different universe every week need. And so I thought of one. I remembered one from my youth, and probably a lot of you guys remember this one. So first, one that I got into was called Tales of the Unexpected, which I think I mentioned in episode 2. That was Roald Dahl. Of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and the BFG and the Witches and Matilda. That was his anthology show, which aired on the BBC in the late 70s, early 80s for a while. And he handpicked those episodes. God, that's some good TV. It's not supernatural, though. There's no supernatural. It's more just dark humans behaving badly, doing dark things. With twists. There's some really good twists in Tales of the Unexpected. So if you're ever bored, you want to check it out. I watched it on Netflix, but they were actually DVDs. I had to get the DVDs from Netflix. But see if I think iTunes probably has it. Tales of the Unexpected. I think it ran for like 6 or 7 seasons, maybe 5. But there's a lot of episodes, and they're all pretty good. There's very few stinkers in there. So I had already done that. I did Night Gallery already. That was Rod Serling's show after the Twilight Zone in the 70s that were all an hour-long episodes. But there's some good ones. They pulled off the hour-long format really well. Night Gallery. Good stuff. Good stuff. I might have to revisit it. It's been a while, but I had already done it. I wanted something I hadn't yet discovered yet. And what I thought of, out of nowhere, I all of a sudden remembered weekday afternoons after school, so I'm talking like 1988. I just aged myself, but whatever. 1988, getting home from school like 3 o'clock, and this show was always on, and I think it was on Channel 20. This is not cable. It may have been on cable. I think it was on Channel 20, WXYZ, I believe. Could be wrong. I haven't done my research. Let me know if I'm wrong, if you know exactly what network it was on. Tales from the Dark Side. Do you guys remember Tales from the Dark Side? It had one of the coolest intros. That's what I remembered about it. And this is only like a month ago when I remembered this. It had this cool, idyllic farm, probably somewhere in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh area, wink wink, as we'll get to in a minute. Pittsburgh area farm intro, where it was all these pretty trees and this picket fence and this farmland and this awesome narrator. I don't want to mess up the quotes or anything, but this narrator is like, he's describing the world of light, and then all of a sudden the whole image flips to negative, right? So it's the black and white negative of what you're seeing, and then his voice turns mean and evil, and he's like, there is a dark side, or one that is not so brightly lit. And then the Tales from the Dark Side logo comes up. So if I knew what I was doing, I would be able to like do some computer footage and shoot it up on the screen for you. Again, informal, books and bourbon, whatever, TV shows and bourbon. Check it out on YouTube. Just YouTube, Tales from the Dark Side intro. It's great. It's 80s awesomeness. It's so 80s. So anyway, I decided I'm going to check out Tales from the Dark Side. It was great. I've watched 2 seasons so far. I think it ran for 5. Here's what I didn't know, and it's like with horror or tales of the uncanniness. It's all a small group. It's a small world, and come to find out, what I never knew as a horror fan, George Romero was the executive producer of Tales from the Dark Side. So non-horror fans, George Romero, huge name. He basically is the reason we like zombies today. He wrote, directed, produced the original Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, of the Dead, of the Dead, of the Dead, all the other sequels. He's the father of zombies, The Walking Dead. I think he basically like brought Greg Nicotero up. So Walking Dead is totally, related to him. It's a again a homage to him, if you will or won't. But yeah, so George Romero, this was his idea. So, he had gotten semi-popular. He had gotten critically acclaimed. That's the buzzwords of this episode, critically acclaimed. But George Romero had gotten critical acclamation from mainly Dawn of the Dead at that time, because that was like 1978, 1980-ish. But Night of the Living Dead also was critically acclaimed amongst, the more noir critics. So he gets some backing, and I'm pretty sure it was his idea to do a half-hour weekly anthology series. So you have Tales from the Dark Side. What do I like about it? Oh, by the way, I think I said this already. You can get these, I think they're on iTunes, but you can get them on DVD from Netflix too. They might have some on YouTube. What's so cool about these episodes? They do the half-hour anthology very well. You're in a different universe, could be a different time, could be a different place, totally different characters. And I don't mean people, I mean characters. I mean character tropes, right? You've got an episode where there's a lonely old guy on Halloween. Then you've got an episode where there's a young working woman and the relationship between her and her mom. Totally just different character tropes through the seasons. And I'm watching them in order. And it bounces all over the place. I love that. Just something fresh, super fresh every episode. But they're also on the spectrum of horror, sci-fi, and just plain strange. They're all over the place on that spectrum. Also dark humor. There's some episodes that are really just dark comedies. And you're just like, oh, that was the dark comedy episode. But they're good. And George Romero, if you've seen Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, he's no stranger to social messages. And they're in there. In particular, he directed one and wrote one. No, he wrote it. He didn't direct it. But he wrote one in, I think, the second season about a talk show. And it's timeless, about an inflammatory radio talk show host. Like they exist today. Just those negative, reactionary radio talk hosts. That just rips on people that call them, and why can't the world be like this anymore? And the world's going to pot, and they're out there today. And he wrote an episode about one of them and what happens to him, and it's great. It's great. There's scary episodes. There's one directed by or written by the makeup guy. The guy who did all his makeup, Tom Savini. God. Gotta do my homework better, my R&D. Tom Savini did one. Tom Savini did all the makeup for Friday the 13th movies. He's the makeup legend of the 80s, right? But he wrote an episode that's just straight up horror. Actually, I think he wrote the episode about the old guy alone on Halloween and what happens to the old guy. He's a persnickety, mean old guy who doesn't give out candy on Halloween. But that one had total makeup effects. Sometimes there's really no makeup effects at all in Tales from the Dark Side, but sometimes they go totally 80s practical makeup effects, and of course the Tom Savini episode would do that. So anyway, it's all over the place, it's entertaining, it's funny. There was one episode, I think in season 2, called The Shrine, that was really sad, almost had me tearing up. Maybe I did. But man, it was good. That was the one about the mother and daughter relationship. It was just great. There was a cool one, a total Twilight Zone type episode, where this lonely guy, like a physicist or just a research scientist, discovers this portal into another dimension, and he pulls out the love of his life, and and then he gets charged with killing. Anyway, it's good stuff. So check out Tales from the Dark Side. What's cool is it's only a half hour of your time, so if you don't like it, you don't have to. It's not going to waste your time. So some research I did do, though, is a couple years ago there was talk of bringing back Tales from the Dark Side, and not just anyone bringing it back, but a little guy by the name of Joe Hill. Here's the book's tie-in. Joe Hill happens to be actually Joe King, the son of Mr. Stephen King. Romero and King were always friends, by the way. So Joe Hill, who was about my age, 29, Joe Hill thought of bringing it back. He was a huge fan of the show as a kid growing up, more than me, obviously. I barely remember the show itself. I don't remember the episodes, but I remember the show being. But he was a huge fan, and he wanted to bring it back. So highly recommend. Joe Hill's an awesome author, like his dad. This is his first book. This is also an anthology of short stories, all ghost-type stories. Great book. Some good stuff in here called 20th Century Ghosts. Check it out. Another good one he wrote is Nosferatu, play on the German vampire Dracula movie. This is a great one, too. This is very Stephen King-y, except he brings his own stuff to the table. He's very good at that. He doesn't write like his dad. He does in all the right ways, but then he can be pretty evil. Stephen King's rarely gets evil. Joe Hill can get, like, pretty twisted. So, I mean, Stephen King could, too. I digress. I could spend 2 hours talking about that. But anyway, Joe Hill talked about bringing it back. And man, that would have been awesome. And I guess it didn't happen. You can Wikipedia it. That's what I did. I guess what happened instead, Joe Hill's idea for bringing Tales from the Dark Side back was actually I don't know about this, he didn't want it to be an anthology. He wanted it to be a long story, interrelated story, which the original was not. That's my whole thing, is I liked that it wasn't. He wanted to do it as an interrelated story. So he ended up, when it fell through, he ended up writing, I think, the screenplay and publishing it. So I haven't checked it out yet. I will be, probably, when I ever have time to read. But he ended up publishing the screenplay for the Tales from the Dark Side series that he wanted to do. So interesting. I'll probably check it out, maybe check it out. Yeah, so that's where Tales from the Dark Side is currently, but it's just awesome. There's some awesome 80s nostalgia in there, and it's a good show. It's timeless. It doesn't, besides the clothes and, the sets, it's timeless. It's not only a product of the 80s. Some of it is a little bit, but it's awesome, guys. So anyway, I'm rambling. Happy Saturday. Thanks for tuning in. Check out Tales from the Dark Side. Check out Twilight Zone. It's always fun to disagree or like something or not like something and talk about it, So check it out anyway. Jordan Peele's awesome. Yeah, everyone have a great Saturday, and I'll see you soon. Again, Heaven's Door. I'm going to have probably a little bit more of this before I hit the backyard and shovel sod into a wheelbarrow. So everyone have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later. Bye.